identity. And that was what was needed. The three of us got together and we produced a book called Wirral and its Viking Heritage, which is a collection of old papers and things about the Vikings in Wirral. And then I produced another book at the same time, which is that was an academic book, but a more sort of layperson's book called Ingerman Saga. Some people said, well, that's the book that they, Paul and Judith, wouldn't let you put in the Viking Heritage. They were a bit cruel in that sense, but it was basically a layperson's book about the Vikings on Wirral. And we did the third edition, which came out a few years ago, which one or two of you bought, so thank you for doing that. The other thing that happened was that science started to play an increased role in Viking research. It was no longer the preserve of historians and archaeologists. Scientists, physicists, biochemists, geneticists, all this DNA stuff started up, and then we were involved with the Viking, the genetic study of the of Viking heritage in the northwest, focusing on Wirral and West Lancashire, a project which ran from 2002 to 2010. Anyone take part in that? To take part, you had to have, it was based on old families from Wirral and West Lancashire. So you had to have a surname that was present in the area prior to 1600 to take part. Anyway, that was a success. And the other thing that we thought would be a good idea, sort of Viking Trail, because they have these things in the Lake District and in the Orkneys, and of course York's got the Warwick Viking Centre, so why not do something here? So I teamed up with my old school friend Sue Bishop. Sue Picknett, she then was. She went to school with me at Overchurch all those years ago, and Sue and I came up with this idea of the Wirral Viking Trail. We've got a Facebook site that goes with. Anybody actually joined our a few days ago? Yeah, anybody else joined our Facebook site? It's a good one to join because it gives you all the updates of what's going on, Viking wise in the area, the Meols update, Brunanburh updates, all this sort of stuff. Plans for a troll park, Viking troll park, Royden Park in Thurstaston. That's another thing which is going forward. So if you get a chance, join the Facebook page. And the next thing which is happening, actually, next walk we're organising is Thingwall Viking Trail on September the 14th. It's advertised in this Wirral Heritage open days, and the last two ones we've done have been heavily oversubscribed. That's why we're keeping on doing them. It's only a couple of miles and things, but if you're interested in this sort of thing, then we'd love you to join us. And we actually go on the Thing Mound, which Ingerman addressed the Thing men. And you know what a thing is, don't you? It's an assembly field. Anyone seen the Last Kingdom? Yeah. Or the Viking series? Because they had a thing as part of that, where they declare people outlaws, all this sort of stuff. But discuss policy and things, but and that's it. We had our own Thingwall here, our own assembly. There's only one other definite Thingwall place name in England, right? There's one here. The other is actually across the Mersey, near Ken Dodd's old Jambutti mines in West Derby. That's how significant the Vikings were in the area. No Thingwall in York. No. They've got Warwick, so they can't complain. But Thingwall's like Thingvellir in Iceland, Tynwald in the Isle of Man, Tynwall in Dumfriesshire, also Dingwall in Scotland, and you've got ones in Orkneys, Shetlands, of course all over the Scandinavian Commonwealth. So this was a very important place in the Viking Age, and Ingerman would have been the first leader of the thing. And in 1066. Or 1088 in Doomsday, 1080, it records in 1066, there was still a Norse, or someone with a Norse name, who was Baron of the Manor of Thingwall. So we think the Thing site was still being used in 1066 the guy was called Vetralida, which means winter traveller. So yeah, that was very, very important for us. So that was central to our Viking Trail. But Sue and I thought we started off at you needed somewhere where you could easily park your car and things. This is really for ultra keen cyclists, really, who like cycling a long way. It's probably too far to walk in a day, I suppose, but you could do it over a few days, staying at B&Bs and things. But the idea is to, you can do it in a car. So you start off at the Thurstaston Visitor Centre, which was the site of Thorstein's farmstead. That's where Thurstaston comes from, Thorstein's farmstead. So we start off at Thurstaston. The centre, and then we go to Thurstaston Common. So you park up by the Common, by the Cottage Loaf, and why they can't change the name to Thor's Stone or something, I don't know, or the Hammer of Thor, and they've done that in Griesby. Anyway, that's another thing. So you park up at Thurstaston Common, and then it's the second highest point on Wirral there. The highest point actually near Heswell, so you get great views over there. And then you come to the historic Thor's Stone, which the Victorians believed was the site of Thor's hammer. After he hurled his hammer, that's where it landed. It didn't actually start with the Victorians. We think it started with the Stanley family. They had a long history in Wirral, but this particular group were based in West Kirby. There was a Stanley Hotel in West Kirby, and they were friends. There was a sort of a group of them: Walter Scott, Morris, Anna Seward, who was a famous poetess that came up from Lichfield. So we think it was from them that this Thor's Stone legend started. It might have been picked up from an early, we just don't know. Maybe some farmer in Thurstaston Common saw a strike, hit the highest point in Wirral and saw this rock. We just don't know, but I think the consensus was it probably came from the Stanleys in this Victoria. It's still part of our history. We still love climbing Thor's Stone and things. We're still thinking it's part of the heritage. And you can move from Thorstone, and then you come to Thingwall, which is the real centre of Viking Wirral, as I mentioned. Now, unfortunately, the Thing site itself, which we believe is Cross Hill, that's got the perfect mound where Ingemund, the law speaker of Vetralida, would have addressed the Thing men and Thing women. And you wouldn't just get the locals coming, local leaders and chiefs, but you get people coming from the wider Viking Commonwealth, from the Isle of Man maybe, from North Wales where there were some settlements there, even from the Hebrides, maybe even from Norway. We just don't know, because it was a time not just for settling disputes, law, deciding policy, but also in having a party, meeting old friends, and having a game of Viking football, whether it was, I don't know, but it was a good place, good focal point for everyone to come to. And the Cross Hill, we're not sure, but we think it's a likely place for the Thing site. Now, it's privately owned. It's owned by the Viner family, and the tenant is Tracy Williams, who has a stables there. So you can't just walk on it and be Ingemund for the day and things. You can't just do that. You have to get permission from Tracy, and she allows us once every year basically to come with the group, and then she takes part, and the horses take part even, and it's if you can come on the tour, definitely. Anyone been on the tour before? No. Okay, recommended. It's funny, isn't it, how everybody else makes a big play, like Isle of Man, Tynwald, how they make a big play of the famous sites, and then for us it's the stables to Yeah, and we love it actually. If the kids could have a little tour, you know, and could go and see Thingwall Primary School, all this sort of stuff. Yeah, and you may have noticed also the Thingwall signs. Yeah, well, that there was a couple of signs went missing about 12 years ago. Things do go missing. I can say that as one of us, you know. I mean, we were just. I was of course perfectly behaved as a youngster. Sign went missing, and then the other sign near Cross Hill, another one went missing near Landican. So we had the idea that why doesn't the council replace them with sort of historic signs, like, you know, in Wales they have all these dual signs. What about us, you know, Thingwall, assembly, place of the assembly, something like that. So we suggested that to the council, and they said, yes, great idea, Steve. Can you find the money? Can you find the money? So I put something out in the Wirral News, as it then was, and it was picked up by a councillor, Councillor Don McCubbin, who some might remember. He was the one trying to save the libraries on Wirral all those years ago. And he knew someone at United Utilities, the reservoir, and they immediately accepted the request to pay not just for the two missing signs, but replace the existing ones on Pensby Road and Irby Road. Now there's no United Utilities officials here, are there? And we think the reason for this is one of their lorries actually accidentally backed into the one in Cross Hill. That's our secret, folks. So that was it. We had the things put up, and then we had ITV Granada. Andy Bodney came. We had a lady from Meols, Mette Royden. Mette's a Norwegian lady, came dressed in her bunad, the national dress, and the youngsters from Thingwall School came out. We made a big thing of it. And then shortly after the Thingwall signs went up, we had this nice email from one of the residents in Thingwall thanking us very much because the values of the property in Thingwall went up as a consequence. Yeah. And then shortly after, we had an information board put up at Bassett Hound Pub, and one also at Meols. I'll come to that in a minute. At Meols Park, there's an information board there near the railway. You might have seen it, Viking information board. Yeah, good. So Thingwall's definitely worth visiting. But if you go, you can't just walk in. Okay, you can see from outside, but you can't just go in without permission. Then we go down to Neston. Neston Church. Anyone been to Neston Church? Seen the fantastic Viking cross reconstruction? Yeah, there's all these fragments of crosses in Neston Church that were discovered over the years, and we had the idea that it'd be nice to make some sort of reconstruction of one of the crosses. And bits were missing though. It was in one piece has got like a priest who's holding, you know, a mandible and all this sort of stuff, and it's very much like the same guy appears on one of the timber work at one of the stave churches at Ernest in Norway. So this guy appears in Norway. There's another one which on one side has got this jousting tournament, and the next it's got this couple of this Viking lady with her hands round her husband. You presume some people said it might be a Valkyrie, but I think it's a picture of a couple. But the top part of the woman and the man are missing, but you can still see the ponytail coming down. And the same lady appears in other stonework in Scandinavia. For example, the Tanviga stone in Gotland. So what we did, we got some money from the English Heritage, and with Merseyside Conservation Centre and the Grosvenor Museum, we got money from English Heritage Lottery Fund, and they paid for this wonderful reconstruction made by laser scanning and all this sort of stuff. It's all been painted up, and it really is fantastic. If you get a chance, you should go to this church in Neston and see this thing. And it changes the opinion. You think people of Vikings as very violent people, but here you have this sort of rather touching, romantic couple. Yeah. Anyway, That's Neston. 4. Where are we now? So 5. Raby. Raby is an Old Norse name meaning boundary settlement. It's where the old boundary was, presumably the agreement between Ingemund and Ethelfled. And this year we were going to do one of our St Olaf Viking walks we do every year along the border, but we had to cancel it because Sue, my partner who helps me with this, she got poorly. But if you actually walk along the track, which is where the old boundary is, you can see how hostile it is with this huge ditch. It really was the border. So Raby is worth visiting because it's the boundary settlement, and we'll be repeating that walk next June next year, so you should sign up for that. It really is. We go around Wollaston and this willow tree valley, it's an Old Norse Pillador it's called. So that's Raby 5. Then Bebington Heath, which is 6. Now, how many of you listened to Pete Jenkins talk before about Brunanburh? How many heard my talk this morning? One, yeah, about the Brunanburh Isotopes project, where we're doing this scientific investigation on the objects that have been found in Bebington. I'm not going to repeat that, but Bebington, Brunanburh, the Battle of Brunanburh, most experts believe took place near Bromburgh, because Bromburgh is the old name for, so Brunanburgh is the old name for Bromburgh. If it wasn't for Wirral Council, who, or whatever it was in 1723, who changed the name from Brunanburgh to Bromburgh, there'd be no debate about the battle. There'd be no need for Pete's talk about the battle site, but they did change it. But most experts believe now it took place around Bromburgh, and the favoured site is Bebington Heath. That ticks all the boxes, and I haven't got time to go into all the detail about that, but there's other evidence as well that we were involved with in terms of a place called Dingsmere, which means the Thing's mere, the Thing's waterway, like Thingvallavatn in Iceland. So Bebington Heath, we think, is the site of the Battle of Brunanburh. So you need to go there, which wasn't necessarily, although it wasn't necessarily involving the Vikings from Wirral. It was an outside group of Vikings coming from Ireland who were taking on, with their Scottish allies, taking on King Athelstan to try and bring him down. Bebington, number 6. 7, Storeton Hall and Woods. Storeton is an Old Norse name meaning store is big. So you've got the Store Ting in Oslo, which means the big thing. That's their parliament, the big thing, Store Ting. Storeton means the big farmstead, the great farmstead. So someone important lived in Storeton, and it was taken over by the Stanley family when they came here in the 13th century. My mum actually is descended from the Stanleys, believe it or not, but the not so rich line of the Stanleys. Sorry, Mum. So very, and the other thing about Storeton is there was a famous poem called Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It's a 14th century poem, and it has the Green Knight. Sorry, it has Sir Gawain going in search of the Green Knight. I'm not going into detail, but this deal was that he had to go in search of the Green Knight 12 months after another skirmish with the Green Knight in the Arthurian court. And of course, because he was a man of chivalry, he came in search of the Green Knight. And the poem takes him through the wilderness of Wirral in search of the Green Chapel. And we don't know for sure who the poet was, but we're pretty sure that the patron of the poet was Sir John Stanley from Storeton Hall, Knight of the Garter. And we think the poet might have been Sir John Stanley himself. Now the thing about the Vikings is, and the link, is the poem is very different from Canterbury Tales written at the same time by Chaucer, because it's full of Norse dialect words specific for this. And that shows that a form of Old Norse is still being spoken, or dialect, even into the 14th century, turn of the 14th, 15th century. So Norse, and we find actually in church records, people with names, Honderson, Honda's Dottir, Ragnar's Dottir, all these funny names with Dottir and sons, which you only find now in, anyone know? Which country has this form of? Iceland, yeah. Daughter of, son of. So yeah, even this late, people were still following the Norse thing. So anyway, that's Storeton. Storeton Hall. Parts of it are still the same 14th century buildings, which were all those years ago by the time of the Stanleys. 7, that's 7, yeah. 8 is Tranmere Rovers. Yeah, for reasons which I explained at the start of the talk. Tranmere is, or was, unique as the only football team in the English Football League with a Norwegian Viking name. And on all my books, it's got this, how unique Tranmere was. And in, when was it, 2015, do you know what they did? They got relegated out of the Football League altogether into the National League. So all my books were out of date. And then in 2018, they won the playoff final. I was so happy because my books came into date again. But then Barrow came into the flipping Football League, because Barrow has also got a Norse name. So we're not quite as unique as we used to be. And there's 30,000 members of the Norwegian branch of the Liverpool Supporters Club. 30,000 Norwegian Reds. And there's about 20 members of the Norwegian branch of the Tranmere Supporters Club. So I've been trying 20 years trying to persuade my Norwegian friends to change to Tranmere. So still some work there to be done, folks. So Tranmere Rovers, yes, do visit them. Think of the Vikings. Hiya, Tranmere. 9, so move on to the Wallasey Breck. And Brecka is areas, look at lots of minor names with Norse roots, lots of thwaites and things, which means a clearing. Rake lanes, there's over 108 rakes in Wirral, believe it or not. You know what rake comes from? It's Old Norse for lane. So when you see Rake Lane, it's lane. Yeah. There's Rake Lane up here in Upton. New Brighton Rakers, remember them? Yeah. Okay, so Wallasey, Brecka, and the Granny Rock used to be called the Clint Rock in the 17th century. Clint comes from Clint here, which means projecting rock in Old Norse. Anyone climbed Thor's stone? Anyone climbed this thing? You can't now, actually, because the grip holes have gone. And we know that because the graffiti stops halfway. So that's the Wallasey Brecka. And then round to Meols. Meols, where do we start with Meols? We could take all day to about Meols. Meols, old Viking name, Mella. It's the old beach market. And loads of finds have been found on the beach at Meols, including what appears to be a remnant of a Viking burial. Got an axe head, bent spear, shield boss. And in fact, they used to bring them here. Actually, couldn't get permission from the Grosvenor Museum because they're doing some changes and things. But always to bring it to the Viking festival. So Meols is definitely worth a visit. And of course, that's a separate talk. Okay, the Meols boat. But we're starting phase 2 of that next January, hopefully, with the permission from the brewery. It's still a lot of work that he's doing there. We had 5 days last year, and we encountered 1 or 2 problems with concrete slabs and things, but that's been continued in the new year. I'll answer questions on that at the end if people want to ask me about the Meols boat. Where are we? 11? Okay, we're over to near the end now. So Tanskey Rocks which is just south of Hilbury. Tanskey. Ton is Norwegian, still Norwegian actually, for tooth. So it means tooth skerry. Skerry looks like teeth, just off the coast. And then finally, West Kirby, St Bridget's Church, West Kirby. When the Vikings came from Ireland, many of them actually were Christianised. Because many of them actually, when they were over in Ireland, they married Irish wives. So they didn't necessarily convert their husbands, but who they did convert, when the youngsters left at home, their husbands were out fishing and farming and all this sort of stuff. So the people coming over from Ireland were largely Christian. We think they were largely Christian, not entirely, and some hanging on to their pagan beliefs, like the crosswork in Neston. There's pictures of Christian imagery and also Norse imagery as well. People were sort of hedging their bets just in case, this sort of thing. So there's still sort of evidence of Viking burials on Wirral, like the Arno in Oxton. Arno comes from Arnie's Haug, Arnie's burial mound, okay, which is now under houses. Okay, so there's some evidence of pagan burial, but also Christian churches. St Bridget's, St Olav's in Chester. Yes, St Olav, the patron saint of Norway, and St Mary St Helen in Neston. That's also got links with Ireland. So St Bridget's, and inside St Bridget's Church is the magnificent hogback tombstone. Who's seen the hogback tombstone? It really is fantastic, and I think you just walk in the church actually to see it. There's also other Viking replicas in the Charles Dawson Brown Museum, which is next to St Bridget's Church. So that is a must see, and that is a beginning of the 11th century replica, which marked, I think, the grave of someone very prominent in the Norse society in Wirral. And what that also shows, that if the Battle of Brunanburh did take place on Wirral, it wasn't the end of Vikings on Wirral. It took place here because we've got all the evidence of the archaeology, language, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, all the, not the major place names, but all the minor place names in Wirral. There's hundreds of minor names in Wirral with Norse roots. I mentioned Rake. There's also lots of homes like Lingham near Morton. Cars. I go to Meols. I go along the road from Morton to Meols. See lots of car names: Car Industrial Estate, Car Fields, Car this. Car comes from Old Norse Shar, K-J-A-R-R, which means brushwood in a marshy area. And apologies folks, you heard this one before, but someone said that Wirral had more homes than Dr. Barnados, more cars than Jeremy Clarkson, okay, and more rakes, well, choose your gardener, Monty Don, Alan Tishmarsh, or whatever. The place is cram-packed with minor names. And the interesting thing is, in North Wirral, where you have all the marshy land and things, you've got cars, which means brushwood in a marshy area. You've got homes, which means island of dry land in a marshy area. All you've got are the Norse forms of those names, and no examples at all of the English names. And that shows how much the Norse dominated this area all those years, and continue, as we show with the DNA study we did between 2002 2010. It was a joint project between University of Nottingham, University of Leicester, Mark Jobling, Turi King, now become quite famous for her work. She's done all the those programs with Stacey, what's her name? Stacey, Stacey. That's right, Stacey Dooley, yeah, on those ancestry programs. She was working on this when she was a PhD student before she became famous for the work on Richard III, yeah, and University College London, where we showed that it was a survey of old families from Wirral and neighbouring West Lancashire. So to take part in the survey, you had to have a surname. You had to be male first of all. Sorry, ladies. There was a male Y chromosome test, which links with surnames. You had to have a surname that was present in the area prior to 1600 to take part in the test. And we had people saying, "I'm from the Isle of Man." No. "I'm from Norway." No. "I'm from Yorkshire." No. You had to be either from Wirral or West Lancashire with this surname criteria. And with great help from local organisations, including the West Lancashire Heritage Association, we had lots of help from Wirral schools, the council, the Globe, Radio Merseyside, Wirral News, the Echo, and with all these organisations, we were able to get enough volunteers to take part. And the results showed that almost 50% of the people from here, and also an independent set from West Lancashire, appeared to be Norse. Not the people. 50% of the DNA from these people was Norse in origin. That doesn't mean 50% were not. It meant 50% of the mixture of the DNA amongst all these old people was Norse in origin. We got one very strange result. We've got this. We got the sample back from the person who did the test, and then we did it's called a PCR test. PCR, and then we do these DNA electrophoretograms, basically fingerprinting, to check the haplogroup of the person taking the test. And we couldn't find anything that matched this person's DNA. We couldn't find any human match. And then it turned out this guy had swabbed his cat. It was only happens here, doesn't it? Only happens here. So the Viking story continues really, because it's still in our blood here even today. So it's something we should be quite proud of really. So we've got a Viking Trail. All that's missing. What's York got that we haven't got? The Viking Centre, that's right, some sort of centre to go with all that. But that will happen, I think, with time, I think, because the council, everybody's become more sort of Viking conscious. The fact that you're here today, this wouldn't happen. 25 years ago we tried this, there'd be no one, maybe a few enthusiasts coming along, but people now have become aware of their heritage, which is something we can be, and it's actually taught of in schools. It's part of the Key Stage 2, 3 curriculum. Something we would have loved as kids when we were here. Right, that's it. I've gone beyond my time. Sorry, guys.
In terms of names, what about hay? Older hay, birch,
I think hay is actually Anglo-Saxon, H-E-Y, yeah. But the older bit probably isn't. The older might be Norse, yeah.
Is there any link between thing and dingle? Is that Anglo-Saxon form of?
I think that's that's been discussed lots of times. I don't think that the dingle is not connected with the thing. No.
And thing, is that the word we use as in thing something in modern English? Is there any connection or is it completely?
Well, it's the same, but it doesn't. In this sense, it means assembly.
Whereas in modern English, it just means an object.
Yeah, there used to be a program called the Addams Family. Remember the Addams Family with this thing? Okay, out of the box. Now, it's nothing to do with that. It just means assembly. Right, folks. So I hope you've enjoyed the festival, and do come back tomorrow. Okay.
I think it's
Cheers.
always